I'm Rick Miller, and this is
Xing the Gap.
In Xing the Gap, I'm not the performer, but the host of an intergenerational conversation between a baby boomer and a millennial. Sometimes we break the rules and go younger or older, but the goal's always the same, to discover how differently we see things, but that together we can build bridges of understanding, find a shared humanity, and save the world from itself. Boom! In today's special cooking episode, my first guest is Bruria Cooperman, the Rebel Bubbie, an artist, storyteller, and author of For This I Survived, Children of Survivors Beyond the Trauma. Her mission every day is to make somebody laugh, and she certainly did that with my second guest, James Mayer. By day, James works for the Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation. By night, he's a classically trained chef for friends and family. We talk about family dinners, tradition versus innovation in cooking, Hellman's versus Miracle Whip, stomping gefilte fish, remembering Woodstock, cooking with pearls and other pearls of wisdom, plus a game show and Japanese fusion Matzah Balls. Bon appetit!
Xing the Gap.
First of all, welcome, Bruria. Welcome, Jamie. Good to be here.
Good to be here too.
Well, Bruria, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself? You have a complex story.
Okay, I was born in Palestine, which became Israel, of course. My parents are Holocaust survivors, and they came in on Aliyah Bet. They were snuck in on, one of those boats, and they landed in Israel, and that's where we were for about 7 years. So eventually we came to Canada, and we settled in Hamilton because we had a cousin there, and it just gets crazier every year. I mean, what happened? I lived in Hamilton. I went to New York for school, and then I came back to Toronto. Then I'm always sort of restless, so I've lived in different places. I've lived in Italy, I've studied there, and then I lived for about 6 years in Japan. Then came back, decided at the age of 46 that I should get married, put an ad in the Globe and Mail.
To get married?
Yes.
As one does.
Well, wouldn't you do that?
Did you find someone?
I did. I found a doctor. Do you believe it?
No.
A Jewish doctor.
Oh, well, that I could believe.
So we were engaged within a day and a half. And very, very whirlwind, and everything happened. Tons happened, and then I moved to Ottawa. Then we came back here. I inherited his 3 children. Now I have 3 children, their spouses. It started out with a dog called Kafka, 2 goldfish and a hamster. I killed the hamster by accident, of course. And then we moved to Toronto, and now I have 3 children, 3 spouses, and 8 grandchildren. And do not ask me for their birthdays.
This could be a television show in itself, I think.
So. I think
like a reality show. I'm seeing it.
I'm wondering what happened to the husband.
Okay, we won't talk about that.
Okay.
We're going to pass it on to you, Jamie.
Passing it on to you.
How can you top that?
I can't.
Give it your best shot. Tell us you're relatively, you haven't had as much life experience.
No.
As Bruria.
He's younger.
My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, my Bubbie. From Poland, and my mother is born here, but her sisters were from Germany and Poland as well. I always had a passion for cooking. I learned all of that from her. We used to always cook, Jewish foods, traditional foods for Shabbos. Then, I went to school. I played hockey like every, young person growing up in Toronto or Thornhill. And then, I was unsure what to do after high school, and I went to cooking school at George Brown College. I did like a very nice stint there. I did the culinary management program. And then I did some food and nutrition to kind of, I was learning a little bit more about science, and I wanted to study about the nutritional aspects of food and how it interacts with, healthy living. And, I started working in the hospitals, and then I just went, I did more and more education at Ryerson and other universities. And before you know it, I would say now in the venture world and looking at innovative solutions while cooking during the evening.
So we're here because of Xing the Gap, which is about bridging generational gaps. And I think cooking is one of the lenses that we can look through to talk about generations. We get together for family parties. Not everyone always agrees, but we tend to eat the same things, which tend to go back generationally. How do you view cooking and generations? I'll start with you, Bruria.
I did not start cooking until I was 46. If I had a date, my brother would come over and cook the dinner and then leave me little posties on the fridge. Warm this up. And then my mother would send a cheesecake from Hamilton with my father. And then I would just pretend I did it. That was my date. And
so almost like Uber Eats today. You had your own version of like...
I had my own version, and I had no idea about cooking. When my husband came and we met for the first time, and
By newspaper,
he opened the fridge, and there was a jar of mayonnaise in there, and that's it.
Hellman's?
Yeah.
It has to be Hellman's.
Miracle Whip. But we did boycott Hellman's at one point. Didn't Perry Como refuse to sing Kol Nidre? And Hellman's was the sponsor, so every Jew stopped buying Hellman's mayonnaise.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Was it Hellman's? I'm pretty sure it was one of the mayonnaises, yeah.
Probably Miracle Whip.
you tend to, okay, Jamie, I'll pass it on to you because you seem to have a hate for Miracle Whip.
No, Americans like Miracle Whip, Canadians like Hellman's.
Is that how it works?
Is that how it works? Yeah.
One's sweeter, one's more savory.
Okay. That's right. There's a kind of a funny taste to the Miracle Whip.
It is. It's very weird. That's why they always give it to the dog on the commercial.
Oh, is really?
That... See, Miracle Whip has an association to like Wonder Bread for me. They're anything but miracles or wonders.
It's a weird taste.
Yeah.
That's why, my husband eats Miracle Whip. So there's like Miracle Whip and Hellman's there. Uh-huh. But every time I pick up that Hellman's, I think of Perry Como.
So passing the question on to you, you are more involved in cooking. You've studied it. You are seeped in it. Mm-hmm. How do you view cooking as being able to either bridge generations together or create wedges between them?
I think it's both. It brings people together because, I would say older individuals in your family want to pass on recipes. I think, that generation, it was cooking more for sustenance and not so much maybe enjoyment of the food. And so now I would say I like to take older recipes and put a modern twist on it to kind of make them a little bit, I wouldn't say more flavorful, but maybe better.
Better. Okay.
Cooking brings people together, I would say, whether it's for the holidays or just, for celebrating on like a Friday evening or a Saturday evening. It's a wonderful way. I think it's the best way to bring families together is cooking. Families that cook together stay together. If you don't cook together, then you're going to get divorced.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah.
From Chef Jamie.
Absolutely.
Well, my mother told me that.
Okay. It's that kind of thing that gets passed down generations.
That's true. That was a thing. If somebody did not have a good marriage, she never cooked.
Well, my mom and dad didn't cook together. That's why they got divorced.
Probably that's true. Because I remember my mother saying they didn't spend time together.
They didn't.
The whole egg in Hellman's makes really smooth and creamy mayonnaise. Fuck, it's good.
Okay, I scoured the internet and found no proof of Perry Como boycotting Hellman's, but it's a good story, and Bruria's got a jar full of them. Incidentally, I learned that in 1959, Como signed a $25 million deal to host the Kraft Music Hall weekly variety show. By the way, Kraft owns Miracle Whip, not Hellman's. Como became the highest paid performer in the history of television to that date and made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. True story, I think.
The first thing I learned to cook in my life was gyoza when I lived in Japan. It was part of learning Japanese. So I was just a total
That's the
flake.
First thing as a Jew you learn to cook?
As a Jew, do you believe it?
That's normally a pork dish.
But I told them I don't eat pork, and they understood. Like when I was making gefilte fish in Japan, I went to Tsukiji, the fish market, and I told them I can't have this kind of fish or this. They just loved it. They just wrote it down and got me certain kinds of fish for my gehackte gefilte fish.
My Bubbie used to make gefilte fish, and she would take the white fish and put them on the floor and stomp it with the hammer on the floor. So my mother would come in and see her, and she would just be beating it on the ground.
In Israel, we put the fish in the bathtub.
Okay.
Wow, these things I just didn't know until today. So there's a Japanese connection to what we're going to cook today. So maybe you could present what we're actually going to be cooking.
We are doing a fusion between Japanese and Jewish cuisine. We're going to do a traditional Japanese broth, which is called dashi. It's a base for many of the soups that they do in Japan. And then we're going to take a traditional matzo ball and bring the Jewish, traditional matzo ball soup in it. And then we're going to top it with some Japanese mushrooms and green onions and ginger and sesame. It's going to be a fusion of two different cultures together. And
so you said that word fusion, which is big, right?
Which is big.
Yeah. And this is a fusion. This is like classic fusion.
So hopefully people watching get inspired and then try something new for their next, Pesach.
Jamie, what do we have here?
We are going to make a Japanese matzo ball soup.
Okay,
I'm going to do very little, and you're going to be doing everything.
Oh, God, I'm such a klutz. I better move this. You know what? I better take this off because it's just going all over the place.
I'll take it.
Take my jewelry. You can wear it if you want.
Oh, it's pawn it when I get home.
Didn't people used to cook with pearls in the 50s?
Yes! I always wanted to have pearls because, all those fancy ladies on TV were like wearing pearls and they wore this and they didn't get dirty and they never wore like a schlafrock. Everybody was so like leave it to Beaver and father knows best, and our mothers did not look like that.
And Jamie doesn't cook like that either.
No. I have 16 people around the table, right? So we've got different kinds of matzo ball lovers. The first question is a floater or a sinker?
I've never seen a sinker. That sinker's too dense. It would probably be like a brick.
I've got a son-in-law who loves those sinkers. They're like, boom.
I know, but those are the people that like pureed latkes instead of grating it.
Well, I don't know.
I can't stand those individuals.
Really?
No.
You can tell I think you're right.
Those are the people that don't like food. They just will just eat whatever is given to them.
I know. It's
awful. No texture. It's just like applesauce.
Should they be canceled completely?
I wouldn't say canceled.
Sent to another room.
I wouldn't like to be in their presence. I always ask whenever I go to someone's house that's Jewish and for Seder or whatever, I always ask those questions. How do they cook their latkes, their matzo balls, and then a savory or sweet brisket? I can't stand savory brisket. Brisket should never be savory. It should always be sweet in Jewish households.
Yeah.
It also has to be a double brisket because there needs to be fat. And people that do a single brisket and they're worried about the health, I also don't like them either. Yeah,
you can't worry about your health.
No,
you're going to eat brisket, just eat it.
Exactly.
I actually do make a fabulous brisket.
It's like, exactly.
So for people who don't necessarily view cooking with as much passion as you do, Jamie, I get the sense you've mentioned, maybe joking like, I don't want anything to do with them or I hate them, or you have strong opinions about food, as many of us do. For those of us who treat food sometimes as just fuel to get us by, like me sometimes,
do you believe that?
Do you hate me?
We feel sorry for you.
I don't hate you. But I also don't envy you.
You don't want to be with me.
No, it's just,
this is sometimes I've appreciated food.
I work to do three things: to travel, to eat, and drink. That's my life, right? And so people who don't like food, that's just something extremely important to me that they don't care about.
I was at a conference. We're standing in line, and I said, do you know what it is to be a Jew? I said, a Jew is a person who will stand in line at a restaurant and talk about the meal he had the week before. That's Jewish. Eating and Jewish. You're always talking about food, right?
Food and culture are interwoven like strands of DNA. They help keep history alive by transmitting knowledge and skills from one generation to the next. Did you know that UNESCO recognizes 23 food and drink-related traditions as part of its representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity? I didn't. But as someone who works in the cultural sector, I do know the importance of intangible things: language, stories, knowledge, skills, rituals, and of course, music.
Do you know what? Well, I was at Woodstock. Does that say anything?
Well, it depends how high you were at Woodstock.
I was in,
My mother was at Woodstock. She's born in 54.
And I was the first generation born after the Holocaust survivors were freed. So it's like 46, 47. Our siblings were born like in 50, 51. The surprise babies came at 54, 55.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, we're having a baby.
And you were a baby boomer. You were squarely
Real baby boomer, yeah.
So you were at Woodstock and you had a very good time.
I don't remember.
What was your drug of choice?
I don't remember.
And your mom was at Woodstock.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk about Woodstock?
Yeah, we talked many times. She went with her sister.
How did they get there?
They went
Did
across
they
the border.
drive?
Yeah, they drove.
Yeah, see, I was down the road at a camp.
Shalom?
No, Camp Mosheva, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. But anyway, I am now what they call a senior. That just kills me.
Right.
I'm not used to it yet.
Do you have any associations with the word baby boomer? Does that sound
No,
like...
I am a baby boomer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't, sit badly with you?
No. I set out the bowls and I said to my mother, how do you make matzo balls? So she said, I'll send you the kit. Within like 3 days, I get matzo ball mix in my mailbox. She had it airmailed, special delivery. So I made the matzo balls and they came out this big. And so when I put them in the bowl, there was no room for the soup, the matzo. So I called my mother the next day and I said to her, Ima, we didn't have any room for the chicken soup. She said, what happened? I said, well, the matzo balls were too big. And she said, well, they grow. I said, as God is my witness, who knew that matzo balls grew? I was very privileged. As a baby boomer, it was right after the war and that we got everything and anything and we were coddled and loved. Those of us who were lucky enough to be in that kind. But I know certain generations are very, not just dismissive, they're angry at us. Mm-hmm. But what could be so? We talked about peace. Is that so bad?
How old are you? Or what is your generational cohort, I should ask?
I'm 32. I think, what are we, Gen Y?
You're kind of Gen Y, getting closer to Gen Z, but you're squarely in the millennial mode.
Is he
millennial?
Is he millennial?
Yeah. Or I'm like on the cuff, exactly.
You're on the cusp. So anyone kind of born in the late 1990s and later would be Gen Z now. And millennials are anyone born sort of between 1980 and 1995, 6 or 7, around there. And so what is your view of generations? I know you looked at it through cooking. Do you feel that older people, are you curious about what they still are saying, what they have to offer and their lived experience?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of things that we learn from aging adults or just older adults, whether it's, different social norms, stuff related to work, their passion for, their experiences going through different wars or through the different generations, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So there's lots of things I think need to be shared with the younger generation, because going from I would say the 90s to 2010s, not much change as much going from, I would say, the 50s to the 80s and up to the 90s. So there's a lot of things that I think that could be shared, and it shouldn't be forgotten, right? Because when you forget, that saying, history repeats itself.
Yeah. And what do you, on the other side of it, feel that younger people are teaching you?
Well, I meet with my grandchildren every 6 or 7 weeks, and we go out for lunch now because we can. And I just love hearing them talk. It just keeps me young, keeps me relevant. I love culture. So they're telling me all sorts of things, and I learn about music, and it just refreshes me. And then I also think that sometimes when I think times are tough, especially now with the COVID, and we've lost 2 years, and that's a lot of years for a senior person. If you're in your 70s,
sure,
it means a lot. But they sort of just lift me up, and there is joy in the world, and they've got it. And I just love their innocence. I mean, they think they're so cool and grown up, but oh, Bubbie, come on, you should know that. But they're really great, and I love to talk to them. And I find that the younger generation are wonderfully respectful. They're wonderful. They're terrific. They help you. I've just never met any people who are always complaining about the young people.
I don't hear that.
You don't hear that?
No. My Alana's mother, who's a teacher, all she complains about is how rude the students are. And how disrespectful
That's a classroom.
they are.
Because I was a teacher. And
So maybe there's a certain context where...
context.
And part of it's also our perception too. Like some people view the world, like my dad, through everything's rosy all the time, and that's his survival strategy. It was just a very positive view of the world and not ignoring he knows there's a lot of negative things always, except he chose to focus on the positive. Whereas I think young people have access to everything that is wrong with the world on their phone all the time. And it's much harder to stay positive. So my kids who are teenagers have a lot of anxiety about what's going on in the world, specifically climate anxiety. However, we've also tried to teach them to be very respectful of their elders because our culture doesn't do that very well.
It's taught. It's something that has to be taught by parents to children.
Yeah. Bruria's right. Respect for our elders needs to be taught down the generations. In Western culture, however, we sometimes treat our elders as products that are past their due date. That's changing, hopefully, and communities like LEAP are recognizing older adults as innovators and creative storytellers. And when you bring them into the kitchen and cook with them, you not only get creative stories, but you find out that cooking isn't just about tradition, it's about innovation.
Everything related to cooking involves innovation. Before, not so much. But I would say ever since probably 99 up, food has been basically intersecting with science in gastronomy, whether it's, using different forms of chemicals to thicken sauces or to create different types of textures, or, there's all these different types of cooking techniques like sous vide and these different types of torches. So you're constantly bringing in science and innovation to trick an individual on what they think they're eating.
Okay.
Which is something back then I don't think they did as much.
To trick, that's an interesting way to put it. Is that sort of like trying to get your vegetables in your kids or trying to make vegetarians feel like they're eating meat?
Make food exciting, right? You can kind of have something that might look like a tomato, but it's actually, a meatball type of thing.
And how do you feel about your view of cooking being embracing tradition more than innovation?
I'm stuck.
That's okay.
I just feel that it used to be where you sat down, you rushed through it, and you just left the table. Because I remember my mother once, she spent all that time cooking, and she timed us. We had it done in 7.5 minutes.
The cooking or the eating?
The eating. Yeah. I mean, the cooking took forever, right? And then like, boom. But I think is that an innovation? I think it's. I see all these cooking shows, but I also see, maybe this is something else on a different topic. I have cousins all over Europe and in Israel, and their kids eat completely different from our kids.
What do they do?
They eat adult food.
Do they eat more slowly as well? Do they take their time?
Yes, they take their time, and they eat the salad at the end of the meal, and all sorts of things. But these little kids are eating, these wild and wonderful foods. And here, it's like chicken McNuggets and grilled cheese sandwiches and mac and cheese. But, I mean, that's fine. I let my kids do that. I'm hoping they'll get into it a little bit more. But I think the innovation was our attitude towards food.
It's just exposure to the food.
That's right.
One of my favorite foods growing up when I was really, really young was actually escargot snails. My mother gave them to me when I was like 4 or 5, and that's one of the things I loved.
Because your mother gave it to you. But you see, other parents will not be doing that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So my French cousins, they're like 3-year-old will be eating the same food as the 30-year-old or the 60-year-old.
I know.
But here,
I know.
people, and then I see these kids, they'll only eat like one thing. That's all they'll eat.
Some parents spoil the kids too much. That's another pet peeve of mine, where a mother has to cook more than one type of dish because the kids don't want to eat a certain thing. My parents, whatever they served, you eat. If you don't eat, you can go to the cupboard and fend for yourself. And it was usually peanut butter and jelly.
Do you make this Asian food for your family?
No, just you.
I'm honored.
And then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of roasted seaweed
Do
on.
you make brisket or anything like that? Any of the traditional Jewish food?
Yeah.
So what do you put on top of your brisket?
I do a sweet brisket.
Consisting of what?
That's a secret.
Okay, I'll tell you mine.
Yeah.
Grainy Dijon,
Uh-huh.
ketchup,
Okay, we're good.
and a ton of garlic powder. And then you cook the life out of it.
I try to limit certain things. Like I still like to eat food that tastes good, and usually food that tastes good isn't healthy. But I usually wait for that for Friday and Saturday. Monday to Friday lunch is kind of healthier alternatives. A few things I try to cut out is the salts and the processed foods. I would say those are the silent killers. You don't know until you have hypertension and something bad happens to you, because there's not really any symptoms of high blood pressure until it hits you. And so I would say I take that in consideration, but I don't always practice what I preach.
Okay.
I drink like a fish and I eat a lot. I just exercise more.
Are you drunk right now? I'm just kidding.
I had Bailey's with my coffee.
Do you tend to drink while you're cooking? Is this something you I guess we'll find out soon.
No, like when I was in Italy, when I was studying in Italy, we started out with Black Russians, 4:00 in the afternoon. And
Yeah, I like Black Russians.
Oh, that's great,
I
isn't
like
it?
White Russians too.
Black Russians, and you just, and then the next morning we were in Switzerland, and I said, that's it. I'm not drinking anymore. So I really don't drink. I'm so afraid of landing up in another
You don't drink?
country. No, I don't.
What do you do for fun?
Okay, we're on camera now, but it was,
Family show.
do you know what my nickname was when I was younger? Do you know Yiddish?
Yeah.
Wilde Chaie.
Wilde Haie. I speak German, but I can't.
Means wild animal.
Wilde
like a
Haie.
Wilde Chaie. Like,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because I was like all over, yeah.
You can't remember Woodstock, so there you go.
You do not have to drink in order to have fun.
Yeah.
Note that. Wisdom from your elders.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not for everyone.
But you see, that my generation looked down at drinking because that's what we got from our parents. Whether they were, I come from survivor community, and the Jewish community really did not have a drinking problem until later. And then I heard that a lot of our Jewish boys were going to, Queens, which was the drinking university. And I'm going, what? Really? And so it's a completely different generation towards that attitude.
I can tell from having a university student right now, it's less about drinking now and more about pot and, the other things, right?
Of course, something's
Which
taken over.
has been around for a long time,
That's
too.
right.
But because it's legal, the implications of being a student now, I know when I was a student, a lot of drinking, that's sort of what happened with my generation. But yeah, my kids have a very different perception around drinking. They're also very careful around things like designated drivers.
Yes.
Which is great.
So
because we didn't even have seatbelts, right?
That's
as kids.
right. It was from one extreme to another extreme. And I find that, as I said before, this younger generation can be much more temperate than we were. And my grandchildren are always going, Bubby, you've got to be careful. They're much more temperate.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of common sense. And I'm just thinking, we were just crazy. These kids have got it together. Maybe the ones I know.
I think that's new. My generation was still kind of crazy. Pot wasn't as prevalent then.
That's right.
It was more alcohol. I don't think we were as concerned with designated drivers. Way more so now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even like to have a drink and drive. Like I can't even do that anymore.
It's just abominable,
It's
sure.
So we've evolved. We've devolved in some ways. I think that's a good evolution in our society,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. I think so.
I'll ask you one more question around the brain, because Leap and Cabby are very interested in the brain, as am I. I want to know what you think cooking does to your brain.
Go ahead. You're the scientist.
I mean, it helps release endorphins and makes you happy and smile. Right? When I look at food, I'm already smiling if it looks pretty. and I really want to eat it.
It's also not just the food, because I've always had issues with food. It's the smell, but it's also who you're sharing it with. Then your brain just sort of lights up, and I know that's little things are going spritz and spritzy in your brain because, God, I'm with my friends. And there's nothing bad. We're not going to talk about people falling and breaking a hip and having a stroke. And it's just about eating and enjoying each other's company.
Do you like to share food? Like, are you one of the people when you're at a steakhouse and you want to try other people's food?
Yes, you have to. It's like...
I don't mind that. Some people hate that.
Some people hate it. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They get offended.
So I'm going to use that as a very terrible segue to this game show. I'm going to ask you certain questions that I think the other person might know about the other person's generation. And we'll see how much you know in the pop culture sphere.
You'll do better at this than me.
I'm very
is that right?
You're going to have to do a lot of editing here. Okay, I'll try and behave. My grandchildren told me to behave.
Did they?
Yeah,
Okay.
They said no potty mouth, Bubby.
Brilliant.
Yep.
What is this?
Oh, I know what that is. That is a USB, UBS, XYZ.
Yeah.
It's a thing you put in.
USB stick. You got it on the first try.
That's it,
Okay.
yeah.
Name a celebrity chef from the last 10 years.
That's really easy.
For the last 10
I mean,
years.
there's so many chefs
I
from
know
your
there's
generation.
so many. Oh, I can remember Julia Childs.
No, that you just took away the question I was going to give him.
Oh.
I was going to ask names of famous cookbook.
Okay, well, you can go back. So do you
Okay,
remember
cooperation.
Julia Childs?
Yes, I love Julie.
No!
Julie.
This is a chicken!
If I say famous chef Gordon,
Ramsay, that foul mouth.
Yeah.
But that's not chefing. Is there
Yeah,
such
it
a
is.
word? That's not chefing. How can that be chefing? He's screaming bloody murder at these people.
Do you know what
They're
like one of his
pissing
lines
in their
I like?
pants.
When he yells at them, he calls them a fat cow.
that's terrible.
Oh my God! But are they really cooking? Is this cook? Okay, I feel sorry for them because they want to, do well so badly, and he's using the F-bombs and oh my God!
When something is lit, is that good or bad?
Oh, that's good. I know that. Well, you have to. I've got grandchildren.
Yes, you know all this stuff.
I know the stuff.
So you can name a K-pop band.
Yeah, that Korean band, is that K-pop?
Yeah, that's K-pop.
Yeah, then Gangnam, that fat little guy that was
No,
jumping.
that's
not
Name of a
K-pop.
song, but
No, that's his name is Psy, and he had a song called Gangnam Style. But
Right.
a K-pop band would be.
Yeah, come on.
Three
Wonder
letters.
Girls.
Oh, okay.
I like them.
BTS is another one. That's a
BTS,
famous.
that's it.
You know this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's new though. Wonder Girls was my generation.
Who
I like
are
them.
Wonder Girls?
Nobody but you. Nobody.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
That's okay. You can Google it.
Yeah.
So, who's the author of the Harry Potter books?
I know, but my memory's been terrible. Rawlings.
J.K. Rowling. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Rowling,
Good.
Rawlings. My
Okay.
favorite is what is her ex-husband now thinking. That's my favorite.
Okay.
ahead.
Name a Spice Girl. Any one of the spices.
I know them, and do you remember the Spice Girl? Brown Spice? Is there a brown spice? Or she's just brown?
Like the real name?
Yeah,
Is there
well,
one
the
that's
names of the
brown?
spices. There was ginger spice.
Yes.
I believe. Ginger
Spice.
Posh, scary spice.
Posh. I remember Posh.
That was Victoria Beckham, I believe. Baby spice.
Victoria Beckham was a Spice Girl?
Yeah, that's how she
Yeah.
started.
Is that how she started? You see,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love her clothes.
Name any hip hop artist.
You mean like those rappers?
Yeah.
Those anti-Semitic rappers?
Well, they're not all anti-Semitic. Okay, name anyone.
Ice something, Ice-T?
Well,
T-Ice?
Ice Cube was
Ice
a
Cube,
hip hop
that's it.
way back. Okay, you dug deep.
He was.
Ice-T, Vanilla Ice also was
There
a.
was that guy that was murdered.
There were lots.
Lots were murdered. Notorious, yeah, Biggie.
Tupac.
It's an occupational
Okay.
hazard.
Yeah.
Okay, so finish this band name. The Black Eyed.
Peas.
Good for you.
Red Chili Pepper.
Red Hot Chili Peppers. Don't forget the
Chili
hot.
Pepper is a child of survivors. Kiss. He's a child of survivors.
You mean Kiss?
Gene's real name?
Gene Simmons?
Yeah, hang on. I knew this. It's in my book.
What's his real name? I don't know this.
He has a real name.
He has a Jewish name.
Yes.
Chaim.
Chaim, that's
Really?
it. Yeah. And then Geddy Lee.
Yeah.
Geddy Lee is also Jewish?
You know how he got the name Geddy?
No.
Somebody told me this. I don't know if it's apocryphal, but his mother was a survivor. And his name was Gary. And she would yell out the window, Geddy! Come in for dinner!
A couple more.
Okay.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
I have no idea. Oh.
Jamie?
The pineapple under the sea.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants.
I do love SpongeBob, but I didn't know he lived under a pineapple.
Yeah, he does.
He did.
It's too bad. Okay.
So cute.
Who are the two people involved in Brangelina?
Okay, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Ding ding. Bennifer.
Jennifer Aniston, and is that Ben? Who's the Ben?
He was
Ben
in Good Will
Affleck?
Hunting. Wow, you are good. You are
I
good.
love culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Name any of the friends from the TV show Friends.
Come on, you can do this.
Oh, wow.
They were there for 10 years. Go ahead.
The actors
It's
or the
yours.
characters' names?
The characters' names.
Do it.
Rachel,
Yeah.
Yes.
Phoebe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joey,
Yeah.
Chandler,
Yeah.
Monica.
And
No, you left
brother
one
of
out.
Monica.
Monica's brother.
Oh, the guy.
Ross.
Yeah, Ross. That's right. Okay. And I'm in the studio audience. It's going to give a little clap here.
Yeah, but we could take this on the road.
Thank you, Jamie. And thank you, Bruria. I hope you had fun.
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Let's
All right.
eat. This is delicious. Wow.
I love the fusion. That's great.
That is wonderful.
I wonder if you
She's the
could
cook.
have a written version of this that I could have at the end, like just kind of a
That would be nice.
scribbled or typed version.
I think
Is that?
I'm trying to
do you have that?
remember.
Oh, is that right?
It's like, wait a
Okay.
minute. It's garlic, ginger, and the seaweed.
I'm going to take a photograph of this, but here, I'll grab it in a photo. I love it.
I
Okay,
think
that's
Chef
just
Jamie
craziness.
should have his own show.
So do I, Bruria. Cooking with Bubbies. I can see it now. Whether you're watching this as a video or listening to a podcast, Xing the Gap was conceived, recorded, and edited by me, Rick Miller, with multimedia from my team at Cadoons. This series is created in partnership with Leap, an online community where life experience meets innovation. For more info, visit cabby.com/leap. Very special thank you to my two guests, Bruria Cooperman and James Mayer. If there's anyone you'd like me to talk to, you can find me at RickMiller.Actor on Twitter or Instagram, or at RickMiller.ca. For more information about the Boom Trilogy, check out boomtheshow.com or Cadoons.com. And remember, in a polarized world, you have a choice. Build a wall or build a bridge. Build bridges, not walls.
Xing the Gap.